every Viltrumite rank. Level 1. Soldier. Today is your 18th birthday, and you know what that means. Yep, that's right. Both of your parents are trying to kill you with their bare hands. You see, normally there'd be some kind of cake or celebration here, but unfortunately for you, you're a Viltrumite, one of the strongest physical specimens in the galaxy. So that means, for your rite of passage, you need to survive both of your parents attacking you at once in order to prove yourself worthy of being a Viltrumite soldier. You barely managed to survive, so congratulations. Welcome to the Viltrumite army, kid. At this point in time, the Viltrumite Empire controls most of the known galaxy. That's not a coincidence, it's a policy. Your culture runs on a single operating principle. The strong deserve to live, and the weak deserve to die. You and your people don't see this as cruel. You see it as nature's way. You and your fellow 18-year-old soldiers see it as your duty to kill anyone you deem as being too weak, even if they're only slightly weaker than you. You believe in survival of the fittest to the utmost extreme. There's no room for sparing lives out of love or empathy. That's weak sauce. Some might say that you and your fellow Viltrumite soldiers have a bit of a superiority complex. Now that you're a soldier, your job is to advance the Empire's reach. That means approaching other civilizations with a simple offer. Submit to the Empire completely, or be destroyed. Because you're so technologically advanced, the Viltrumite Empire actually has the technology to end famine, extend lifespans, and cure diseases. But you're only willing to share it to species that are totally compliant and bow down to you. If a planet refuses, well, they weren't worthy of it anyway. As soldiers, you are tasked with advancing the mission of the Viltrumite Empire. In other words, you are attempting to spread your terrifying and brutal culture across the galaxy through any means necessary, even if that means eliminating entire species and planets to do so. You don't lose sleep over this, neither does anyone else in your unit, but the one line you won't cross is killing a fellow Viltrumite. That's sacred. I mean, you're not savages. The only way a Viltrumite can be killed is if they break the law, but killing anyone else in the galaxy? That's fair game. The Empire is growing, and you're only just getting started. Level 2. Viltrumite General. Congratulations, soldier. After all those years of hard work, you've been promoted. You're no longer a grunt, you're a general, under Grand Regent Thrag, and the Empire is in full expansion mode. Here's the context. After Emperor Argol's assassination way back in the day, the surviving Viltrumites needed a leader, and they found one in Thrag, a Viltrumite who was literally bred to be the strongest of them all. His father was one of Argol's closest advisors, and Thrag's entire existence was engineered for this role. He was appointed Grand Regent with one official mandate: expand the Empire and find Argol's true heir so they could take the throne from him. He's basically just supposed to be keeping the throne warm until they find Argol's true successor. But strictly between you and me, Thrag has no real intention of giving up power, but that's above your pay grade. For now, you've got one thing to worry about. You've been promoted from soldier to general, and it's time for you to commit some intergalactic genocide. It's time for your first assignment, Europa, a peaceful, scientifically advanced world that has somehow achieved harmony between nature and technology. As general under Thrag, you serve the Empire without question, wanting to help your people achieve control of the entire universe. You train your soldiers to be just as ruthless and violent as you are. You take no prisoners, and are unwilling to accept anything but total, unconditional surrender from the inhabitants of any given planet. You arrive at the planet, and you personally deliver the native Unopans your offer. Submit to the Empire and hand over your resources, or face the consequences. The Unopans say no. You aren't surprised, and honestly, you aren't even annoyed. What follows is less a battle and more a demonstration. Surprisingly, the Unopans were actually prepared. They had developed weapons specifically engineered to get through Viltrumite durability. But unfortunately for them, they aren't quite good enough. Tough luck, guys. It was worth a shot anyway. Their technology gets shredded. Their resistance is crushed. And when it's done, Europa isn't a conquered planet. It's a completely destroyed one. Some survivors manage to flee into deep space. But who cares? You'll find them soon enough. You get home, file your report, and wait your next assignment. Another world, another offer they'll probably refuse. Level 3, Planetary Infiltrator. Alright, here's the situation. Remember how things were going great a second ago? Yeah, well, now the Empire is in a lot of trouble. You see, recently Viltrum was struck by a deadly disease known as the Scourge virus. It's a bioweapon that was specifically designed to attack Viltrumite DNA. The vast majority of the population was killed by this virus, leaving only 50 or so Viltrumites left alive, and the future of the Empire uncertain. To help get the Empire back on track, the Grand Regent and Council have decided to implement the Planetary Infiltration Program. This means that the strongest Viltrumites are selected and sent into distant planets to breed with the local population, growing the Empire in a far different way than you're used to. Because of how incredibly dominant Viltrumite genes are, even if a child is only half Viltrumite, they're basically 99% full-blooded. This means that the next step in your Viltrum Empire career consists of you being assigned your very own planet to infiltrate and take over from the inside. The Viltrumite Council gives you your next assignment, a gorgeous planet with beautiful vistas and oceans, light years away from Viltrum. For now, the planet is going to be your temporary home. The world is unremarkable by galactic standards, but the inhabitants are genetically compatible with Viltrumites, which is all that matters. You'll pose as a hero, earn their trust, find a mate, have children, and when the time comes, hand this planet to the Empire on a silver platter. This is going to be much different from your usual conquests. Instead of almost immediately slaughtering a bunch of natives, you now have to pretend to be friendly. You soar through the skies of your new home, defeating their big scary bad guys, immediately cementing yourself as a local superhero. You drop through the atmosphere and immediately hate how weak everyone is. Their strongest champions couldn't even threaten a Viltrumite teenager, let alone you. But you smile, you shake hands, you sign autographs, you let them build statues of you. You also wear a cape now. It's fine. You've infiltrated this planet in order to gain the trust of the local populace. Step 1. Check. You aren't planning to destabilize the planet, not yet at least. Next, you've been ordered to find a mate, someone to breed with and raise a few kids with so you can train them to hone their Viltrumite instincts. Your children will be warriors serving the Empire, just like you. Sure, they're only half Viltrumite, but they're still vastly superior to a majority of the local inhabitants. You continue your work as a so-called superhero and eventually meet a young woman who falls madly in love with you and your incredibly handsome moustache. You try to keep your emotions out of it while charming her. After all, this is supposed to be a transactional relationship. Your only goal here is to breed and have children that you can turn into weapons of the Viltrumite Empire. You get married, have a couple kids, and have a mostly normal life. For now at least. Let's see if the grand plan actually pans out. Level 4. Viltrumite Counselor. You are one of 3. That's how many counselors the Scourge virus left standing. The Viltrumite Council, once the primary legislative body of the most powerful empire in the galaxy, is now a room with 3 people in it. You are one of the oldest and strongest Viltrumites alive, which is the only reason you're still here at all. Strength is the only qualification that's ever mattered. As a Viltrumite Counselor, you are one of the most powerful people in the galaxy, and not just physically. As a council member, you have significant political sway over imperial decisions, such as military strategy and expansion policy. You were on the council before the Scourge virus, and managed to survive the plague to continue your work as the pandemic wore down. Your job, technically, is to advise Thrag, but in practice, it's really just to be a yes man to all of his decisions and maintain the appearance of a functioning government. Besides Thrag, you have the highest level of authority and oversight in the Viltrumite army. You were involved in directing of the dirty work yourself. Fun. As a council member, you decide which planets get infiltrators, which get destroyed outright, and which are flagged as genetically useful for repopulation. One planet that's currently on the shortlist is Earth. It's similar enough to Viltrum, the population is compatible enough to breed with, and the planet is strategically positioned. You and the other 2 counselors have been watching it closely. You have a soft spot for planets with a lot of water and mountains, so you like to send Viltrumites there to begin their breeding programs. Can't blame you. There's a lot of natural beauty out there in the galaxy. The breeding program is central to your entire role in the Viltrumite Council. Thrag is growing increasingly desperate in his quest to rebuild, causing tension between him and the rest of the council. He's much stronger than you, and could probably tear you in half if he wanted, meaning all of your work depends on what his priorities are. So it's not all fun and games. You do have a very scary boss, but your job isn't limited to just picking new vacation spots for yourself. Turns out, being a part of the most powerful legislative body in Viltrum is a lot of work. You also have judicial and disciplinary power, allowing you to punish Viltrumites who fail in their duties or break the law. Every so often, a Viltrumite gets attached to a planet they infiltrated, or a child begins to question the teachings of the Viltrum Empire. You've seen it happen. Defectors spend too much time on an infiltrated planet and begin to develop feelings for the local populace, or the mates they've chosen to breed with. Those individuals must be dealt with, and swiftly. Much of your job consists of hearings for criminals so that they can plead their case. I mean, you can't just have generals going around brutally murdering their subordinates in cold blood without fair trial, right? You're supposed to be the most civilized society in the galaxy after all. If the criminals aren't immediately executed, you and the council send them to the Viltrumite prison ship, an untraceable facility built into a massive asteroid. There, prisoners are locked in high-tech facilities, so you can torture and gain information from them until their eventual execution. Being a member of the Viltrumite Council is a lot of court hearings and a lot of shuffling paperwork, but mostly it's a PR job as you work to convince everyone on the outside that your empire is stronger than ever before and the best days are yet to come. What you don't say out loud, what nobody says out loud, is that the empire is essentially just Thrag at this point. He's older than most civilizations, stronger than anything the coalition has ever put in front of him. He has personally held the empire together through a civil war, a near extinction event, and a galactic insurgency through nothing but sheer force of will and the fact that nobody alive can physically stop him. Level 5. Grand Regent. As Grand Regent, a position that has only ever been held by Thrag, you are the most powerful Viltrumite in the galaxy, meaning that you are the most powerful being in the galaxy, across every species, race, and planet. You've held this position for thousands of years, and in that time, no one has come close to taking it from you. Not through combat, not through politics, not through anything. The Grand Regent is the Empire. At this point, they're functionally the same thing. You were bred for this role, by a man who understood that the Empire would one day need someone who could hold it together through sheer, undiluted force of will. That man was right. You aren't exactly the emotional type, but on the inside, you are pretty pleased to be officially deemed the most powerful individual in the galaxy. Just don't let anyone see how much fun you have being in charge of the most powerful empire the universe has ever seen. Viltrumites aren't big on feelings, and you have to lead by example. As Grand Regent, you're the head honcho, in charge of determining all of the moves of the Viltrumite Empire. You are leading your people in fulfilling the Viltrumite mission to make your empire the only existing empire in the entire universe. You also tell your subordinates that you're searching far and wide for Emperor Argor's true heir so that they can take over from you. But to be honest, that's more of a secondary goal in your book. What you really want is to spread the genetics of the Viltrumites far and wide throughout the galaxy, through the Empire's breeding initiatives. It's a massive challenge that's only had limited success, but you stay optimistic. This puts you in a rather awkward situation. You have been looking for the heir of Argol, but you just can't find one anywhere. Your underlings, including the council, are likely suspicious that you haven't found an heir on purpose, but they know better than to question your authority. At this point, you're convinced that whoever the heir is was killed by the virus and is long dead, leaving no one who could take the title from you. Your responsibilities are total. Military strategy, expansion policy, disciplinary oversight, the breeding program, the search for Argol's heir, all of it flows through you. The council summarizes. You decide. Your word is the last word on every question, in every room, in every corner of the empire. No one argues, no one pushes back. Not because they agree with you necessarily, but because they've seen what happens to people who don't. The Viltrumite Council reports directly to you now. No more planet reports or sitting behind a desk for you. Now, the council provides you with summaries of the best planets to take over, and you get to pick where to next. And you didn't even have to get your hands dirty by infiltrating the planets yourself. You just get to sit back and relax, perhaps on your many luxurious homes across conquered planets, while your underlings get rid of the undesirable locals and use their resources to build up more of the Viltrumite Empire. It's good to be king, huh? And yet, despite the fact that you have the entire galaxy sitting in the palm of your hand, you can't help but wish that you had the one thing that Emperor Argol had all those eons ago. You aren't the true heir to the throne. And deep down, your people know it. You begin to think that unless you create an empire bigger than his, you'll never truly earn their respect in the same way Emperor Argol did during the golden age of Viltrum. A time your people talk about frequently with a lot of nostalgia. Level 6, Emperor. In all of Viltrum's history, there has only ever been one emperor, Argol. Emperor Argol ruled Viltrum at its peak, a period so far removed from the present day that your people have started to mythologize it. The cities, the technology, the sense that the empire was building towards something, rather than just holding itself together. They call it the Golden Age, and depending on who you ask, Argol was either a wise and benevolent founder or a cold conqueror who simply happened to be good at it. Both things are probably true. The Viltrumites aren't exactly known for their nuance. What's not disputed is this. Argol was followed, not because he was the strongest. Thrag would surpass him on that front, and everyone knows it. But because he understood something that strength alone can't manufacture. His people didn't just obey him, they believed in him. He gave the Viltrumites an identity beyond conquest, a sense that they were building something that would outlast all of them. An empire worthy of the species. Upon becoming the first emperor of Viltrum, he founded the Viltrum Empire. He ruled over the golden age of Viltrum when the Viltrumites began to construct cities across their own planet and throughout the galaxy. Perhaps calling it the golden age of Viltrum is pure nostalgia for a time where things seemed simpler, when there were no breeding programs and no scourge viruses. But nevertheless, Emperor Argol had the respect of his people and they obeyed his command without question. Being the Emperor is a birthright. Your people believe that you have the best and strongest genes in the entire galaxy, and you are certainly not one to disagree with them on that front. Then, Thetis stabbed him through the skull. His heirs were lost to history, and everything that followed was the long, grinding aftermath of that one moment. The Great Purge, the Scourge Virus, the Infiltration Program, the Prison Asteroid, 3 counselors in a room pretending that the Empire is fine, all of it traces back to a single assassination, carried out by a single Viltrumite, who decided, alone, without precedent, that what his people were doing was wrong. Argol's skull sits in Thrag's throne room to this day, a reminder, Thrag says, of what happens when an empire loses its way. What he doesn't say is that the skull is also a reminder of everything he's been trying to replace ever since, and can't. And that's the Viltrumite career ladder. Brutal, efficient, and apparently just one assassination away from completely falling apart at
That was a good video. A good video. Alright, I'll talk to you later, dudes.